Action.
Radio check.
Welcome back.
As the opening lines, the Italian national anthem boomed out over the Bahrain International Circuit on the night of the first race, the sense of relief almost matched the outpouring of emotion. Ferrari had recaptured the first two steps of Formula One's podium after 45 races without a win, re-establishing itself as a championship contender for the first time in over 3 years. In reality, anything less than competing for victory at the start of F1's new era would have been judged a failure by the sport's most successful team. Ferrari's hiatus has been allowed only because of the promise of a return to the top under F1's revised car regulations this season. In this video, we will look at how Ferrari made their way back to dominance in Formula One. One of the reasons Ferrari has started the 2022 season so successfully is that it spent the previous 2 years in the midfield. To begin with no titles to contend with last year, the team shifted its full focus to 2022 earlier than rivals Red Bull and Mercedes, giving it more money under F1's budget cap to put into this year's car. In addition, at the start of 2021, Formula One introduced new rules to assist struggling teams in moving back up the grid, including a system to provide teams that finish further down the order. So when Ferrari finished 6th in the championship for the first time in 40 years in 2020, the silver lining was that it gave the team greater development possibilities for this year's car. That extra time in the wind tunnel and computational fluid dynamics capability was certainly well spent, with Ferrari's engineers creating a unique take on the 2022 rulebook with one of the most extreme design concepts on the grid this year. Besides that, unlike rivals Red Bull and Mercedes, which both brought significant updates to the second test, Ferrari only made minor tweaks to details on its car following the first test in Barcelona, giving it a more stable platform to build on and a more comprehensive understanding of its car ahead of the first race. Ferrari's championship odds have improved as a result of its great start in comparison to its main rivals. In terms of performance, there was little difference between Ferrari and Red Bull in Bahrain, but a failure with the fuel system on both Red Bulls meant that Ferrari won the race with a maximum of 44 points while its main rivals scored 0. Let's see how Ferrari began this momentous climb. Ferrari's return to title contention began as far back as 5 years ago when they were last in a good position. F1 was entering a new era of regulations back then as it is now. Ferrari's technical crew, as it does now, aced the new rules and their car was brimming with improvements. Sebastian Vettel, Ferrari's main driver, dominated the 2017 title for nearly 2/3 of the season before being passed by Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton in the final races. The cycle repeated itself in 2018 when Vettel and Ferrari blew a sizable lead due to a series of team and driver errors and technical failures, without which they would almost probably have won the championship. By the end of the season, then team principal Maurizio Arrivabene had been unable to provide a convincing explanation for what had gone wrong, and he was quickly replaced by the current team principal Mattia Binotto. Looking back, Binotto can easily identify the issues. He stated that Ferrari had previously demonstrated a high level of innovation and the ability to comprehend new rules as a team. The car they built was good. It was the starting point in terms of concept and design. In truth, other teams began to mimic Ferrari's ideas in the years that followed. While Ferrari worked to improve its facilities in Maranello, another component of the puzzle, the drivers, was being addressed. After 5 unimpressive seasons, veteran Kimi Räikkönen was fired at the conclusion of 2018 and replaced by LeClerc, who had only 1 season with Sauber under his belt. Sergio Marchionne, Ferrari's previous chairman and CEO, had planned the transfer. He was also behind the changes that resulted in manufacturing their groundbreaking 2017 and 2018 vehicles. Marchionne was skeptical of Vettel and wanted to compare him to a driver while, unproven, exhibited all the signs of becoming a future superstar. Marchionne passed away unexpectedly in the summer of 2018, but his goal persevered. Leclerc was an immediate success, taking pole in Bahrain in only his second race with Ferrari and losing a commanding victory only when his engine failed in the closing stages. Ferrari's chassis was not as excellent as it had been in the previous 2 seasons in 2019, but an engine with incredible power enabled Leclerc to capture 7 pole positions, with the team taking 6 in a row at one point. However, Ferrari's competitors were skeptical. They thought Ferrari's engine was too good, and after Red Bull obtained explanation from the FIA on technicalities concerning Ferrari's fuel flow prior to the US Grand Prix in November 2018, Ferrari's pole streak ended. The engine dispute had an impact on both the engine and the chassis. Their method of exploiting the engine was powerful enough to give them a major disadvantage the following year that Ferrari was not expecting. Ferrari was not the only one losing power on the grid that year. At the time, most of the major manufacturers were also struggling. However, they were the ones that lost the greatest power, and as a result, Ferrari went from being at an advantage to being clearly at a deficit. Worse yet, Ferrari had no way of modifying it. The pandemic hit them at the worst possible time. F1 entered survival mode, with one of the emergency measures being a ban on in-season development in 2020. As a result, Ferrari had its least competitive season in 40 years. LeClerc pulled off the rare miracle, like qualifying fourth and finishing third at Silverstone, but ultimately, as Bonotto puts it, they suffered as a team. The new aerodynamic rules, which Ferrari has adapted so well this year, were originally slated to be implemented in 2021, but were delayed by a year as part of the series of reforms made by F1 in reaction to the pandemic. Bonotto believes Ferrari would not be as powerful now if the rules had been implemented on time. They had additional time to prepare because of the delay. They started with the engine. Last year was a major improvement over what they had in 2020, but it was still one of the weakest in the field, despite an upgrade to the hybrid system for the final part of the season, helping them beat McLaren to third place in the championship. This year, the power unit took another step forward. Bonotto says it's been a really tremendous job from the power unit team. He attributes 75% of the increase to the engine, notably in combustion, and 25% to the energy recovery system. Despite the attention paid to Ferrari's technological breakthroughs, the man in the cockpit is a critical component of the team's current success. The bet on Leclerc's potential in 2019 has more than paid off. But the real question is, can Leclerc catch up to Verstappen at this point in the standings? After Sunday's Canadian Grand Prix, Charles Leclerc departed the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve confident, insisting that he could catch Max Verstappen and win the world title this year. The 24-year-old Monegasque Ferrari driver is 49 points behind Red Bull's world champion, who won his sixth race of the season on Sunday, but he feels the gap is not insurmountable. Leclerc finished fifth following a thrilling, though frustrating race from the back of the grid after being penalized for using a new power unit. This demonstrated that the championship this year may swing between Red Bull and Ferrari, with more twists to come. Verstappen may have recalled that he had a 32-point lead over Mercedes' seven-time champion Lewis Hamilton at a similar juncture in the title race last year, when their battle went down to the final lap of the season. To complicate matters further, the forthcoming British Grand Prix at Silverstone may see a revived Mercedes challenge, with Hamilton leading the charge at his and teammate George Russell's home race. Despite stating his car was undrivable, Hamilton said he was ecstatic to be back on the podium in third place on Sunday after a strong drive with no post-race grumbles about bouncing or porpoising. He admitted, however, that his car remained very volatile and unpredictable, implying that another struggle between Ferrari and Red Bull is possible. All in all, Ferrari seems to be in good shape to claim the title. All we have to do is wait and see. What do you think will happen? Comment below.